What's going on? This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. Today is July the 12th, 2023. I'm GB, Coop down there, Brian on the side. I'm going to switch us out, get me at the bottom, get y'all at the top, whenever that works. If it does work, gotta stop talking. Not my best, not what I'm best at. So yeah, we're Sports Counterpoints. We're back at it. We're going to be talking about, it's kind of light. We're in between all the sports right now. We all care about sports. We're just kind of stuck. So we're talking NBA new rules, a little bit of some NFL musings, kind of stuff that's out there. We'll talk about the U.S. Open for the women at Pebble Beach. And so starting with the NBA, B, give us kind of a breakdown of what the NBA added to the rule books.
Well, they added two rules. One's just a second coach's challenge, and the first one is successful. Sort of mimics other sports. And then they created an in-game flopping penalty, which can be, a technical shot or just a foul. But what's kind of interesting about it is you can't review it if it was called on you. But if they are reviewing another play and see that there was a flop, then you can have the penalty assessed to you. They don't change possession, but you do get the foul. So, hopefully that some of the more egregious flopping that goes on will die out, because there's times where people, do a whole parade of acting, and there's never been a penalty. There's never been any consequences to it. So there was never any reason not to do it. Because the worst that would happen is that they would ignore you. Hopefully this will reduce that, because, the sport of soccer has always been interesting, but some of the flopping that goes on really, really detracts from the game, and it's kind of permeated into basketball. So hopefully we can kind of reverse that trend. Way late. I mean, it started back with Vlade. That's a long time it's been around. So yeah, Jason, as a ref, what are your thoughts on adding that?
Yeah, let us know.
It's about time the NBA did this, because it's gotten pretty much insane. I mean, some of these flops are, it's not even, sometimes it could be 50-50. You can't tell. You might see the replay and tell it's a flop. But now some of this stuff is just so obvious that it's flop. It's just downright ridiculous. These are like terrible, terrible actors. So I'm happy the NBA instituted that, so we can kind of clean that up in the game. As a referee, it's kind of easier because I'm not refereeing professionals, so it's kind of easy to see, mostly fops with kids in high school and, sometimes in adult league or whatever. So we know it's a flop. I just look at them and just, keep going. They'll look at you and I don't even pay attention to them. But NBA, I could tell it's a faster game. It's professional players, and, but like I said, some are good some very few are good at it, but most are bad at it. So I'm just happy the NBA instituted that, instituted the flopping penalty. It should be 2 free throws, to be honest with you, but I think that's only one, Brian.
Yeah.
They give you one. Yeah. I want to make it 2 to really discourage people from flopping like that. But I guess 1 is cool as a start.
Yeah, and it's a 1-year trial. So, at the end of the season, they'll reevaluate both the value of the rule and how it's implemented. And they could probably add something to it, or, they could do the same thing they do with technicals, where cumulatively it caused a problem.
Yeah.
Any of those things would be great. I don't think it's implemented in, any of the lower levels, NCAA, rec, and all that kind of stuff. But I really hope that at some point in time, after they adapted it in the NBA permanently, they put it in high school basketball, because that's where the training goes, right? What you do in the high school basketball is directly relates to what you're going to see in a few years.
True.
When AAU took over and people stopped playing defense and started traveling nonstop, a couple of years later, that was there. There's very few things, unlike flopping, where it kind of came into the league directly and then went down. But most things, you start seeing your kids kind of get away with stuff, and then they get away with it into the pros. And then for whatever reason, we had adjusted the rules to make it so that it fit that, because like the traveling rule, they just basically gave up and said, okay, a third step is not that big a deal.
Yeah. Brian, you make a good point about the high school rules. I don't think it's going to be implemented in high school, because people in high school
certainly not this year. It'll be a year or two. Once the NBA adopts it permanently, I would imagine it might start to trickle down.
Yeah. See, I just don't think it will, because in high school, I just think there's just so many high school teams, so many high school games, and high school kids are just so bad at flopping that it's obvious. So they really only do it once, and then that's pretty much it. Whereas NBA, you kind of see it throughout the game. But it wouldn't surprise me though,
Kids
Brian, if a
don't
few
learn
years.
it when they're 20, man. Like they're
No.
learning it somewhere.
Well, no, I don't think they're learning it because they're bad at it. But I hear what you're saying though. I can see it happening. I just wouldn't bank on it right now. But it wouldn't surprise me if that happened.
Yeah. No, I don't think right now. I think in 2-3 years, if it becomes a permanent rule in the NBA, at that point in time, it always happens that way. Once it becomes the NBA rule, it starts to permeate the lower levels because they think of themselves as playing the same game as the NBA.
Yeah, which we all know that isn't. Yeah,
not even close.
Yeah, they get games. Yeah. The high school game is different from college, and college is different from pro, and that's just how it is. Yeah. And anybody wants to know why? Because NBA is a television show. College and high school isn't. That's why they take out the ball at half court, because nobody wants to see somebody roll the ball like they do in college and high school in the closing seconds of the game, because it's for money, TV money. So that's why they do it. But yeah,
the instant replay has any effect on anything, or it's kind of just.
When you say instant replay, you mean for the coaches challenge you're talking about?
Yeah, so they'll get another challenge if they.
You know what?
Yeah, if they're successful with one, they get another one. That just makes sense.
Like the NFL.
If a ref makes a mistake and it is caught, you should not be penalized by not having the ability to make another one when you made a correct, correction of a mistake. That's why would you penalize someone for that? That just makes sense.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're agreeing with they get an extra coaches challenge. Is that what you're saying, Brian?
Yeah. If they get it right, only if they get it right.
Right. I agree with that as well. Because if the referee makes a mistake, and a lot of times, sometimes, it's 50-50, whatever, but there's sometimes where it's obvious the referee made a mistake. You cannot penalize the team because they used their challenge because the referee messed up. You got to give them another one. So it makes sense.
It is disappointing when you see someone not challenge a call that is clearly wrong because of the time of the game,
right?
Or they need to save it because it's only valuable in the last couple of minutes, or whatever it is. And obviously, calls earlier in the game are less immediately impactful than late in the game. But sometimes there's just stuff that it's like they just missed it, and it's not it's not a bad thing. It's not the worst thing in the world. They just missed it, and being able to go, hey, go take a look at that. Also, I think that's the kind of way you set the tempo for a game. Like if someone misses an egregious foul or some player being sneaky and you have to ignore it, then they can go on doing that behavior going forward. If you call the early call for the challenge early on, you can maybe get the ref to be more aware of what they're calling or what they should be calling or what they're not calling. There's a strategic element that you could use using that early to try and impact how refs call games late.
And another reason why I like it, you guys, is because a lot of the better NBA refs no longer ref anymore. So you get a lot of these younger guys in there, or younger women, I would say, and that they're just not as good or experienced as the older refs. And this is why you always see pretty much the same older refs, right? Doing all the playoff games or the high TV games or high audience TV games or whatever, because it's just not good refereeing. So the fact that the refereeing is not as good as it used to be, I would say 2 challenges is a good thing, because they do mess up. Nobody's perfect, but it seems like some mess up more than others. So yeah, I like the rule.
Indeed. Okay. So we'll see what happens there. As far as anything else NBA, I don't think.
Yeah, so. I got a couple things from on NBA. One is, my thoughts go out to the police officer who got ran over by the Nuggets parade fire truck and lost his leg. Right. So I don't know if you all have seen the story, but he was going along the side of the fire truck that all the players are on. A bunch of fans kind of tried to get too close. He was trying to protect the fans from getting ran over. Got ran over himself. Ultimately, it cost him his leg. That's a difficult and rough way for an on-duty police officer to have that go for him. And then the other was, I'm just going to comment. We talked a little bit about Wembanyama And his first game was awful. His first game was completely abysmal. His second game, I actually watched with our buddy Derek, and tried to pay somewhat close attention, and he looked bad still, but he had a great stat line. And there was a bunch of story cycles, and the minute that story cycle went through that he had a great stat line, they said no more for him for the rest of this summer league. They got their moment of fame. I honestly believe that San Antonio is worried that he's going to get figured out before they can do something to get him on there. But he doesn't look physically ready, mentally ready, and to be able to do what needs to be done in the NBA. And the only reason he had that stat line is that whenever he came in, and he'd come in for 2-3 minutes and then go out for 2-3 minutes, is because all they did was run the entire offense through him to try and manufacture that stat line while he was in the game. So something to keep in mind for all the Wembanyama believers.
You're muted, Coop.
When these kids come out 18, 17, 18, 19 years old, I don't think people seem to realize, college could help you because you can physically mature and emotionally mature as a player. When you're playing high school basketball, you're usually doing 30 local games. You go to college, do about 35 regional games. And then when you go to NBA, it's 82 games and it's national travel. Not everybody's body or not everybody's mind is able to handle that. So
he was playing French pro ball.
Right, yeah. So was Ricky Rubio, but I don't know how that turned out. But the thing about it is, like you said, I agree with you on his body type. I just don't see that body type lasting in the NBA. People want to compare Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a flat out scorer. Okay, he was doing it in college, and that body type, it really didn't matter. He's not really built too bad. He's just very, very skinny. But Kevin Durant, you can't put Kevin Durant and Wembanyama in the same damn sentence. It's two totally different players. So I don't think that body type holds up. I still don't think he holds up. I'm really not going to be I'm not a Wembanyama believer.
Make it into the season.
Yeah, I'm not a believer. I've never been a believer on these guys. From Wembanyama, I wasn't a believer in Ricky Rubio when you saw those same 3 highlights of him, doing no look passes and layups and never really any jump shots or anything else. We don't have too much film on these guys for overseas, and a lot of people just want to buy in the hype of them. I need to see more, like we do the American players and scrutinize the American players. We don't have much to scrutinize about them. So, we'll see how
Rubio had a respectable NBA career, man. He had a long, respectable career. He was never a superstar, but I don't think he didn't get the hype that Wembanyama got. But Holmgren, by example, didn't even make it to the season, got hurt in a Pro-Am game. I think he figured it out because he just had a Liz Frankie injury, but he came back 20 pounds heavier this season.
Ricky Rubio got a lot of hype. I mean, he was drafted ahead of a lot of good players. I mean, he got a lot of hype off 3 highlights.
But that's not hype. Like, no, Anthony Miller's not getting all that hype.
Who?
Exactly. Number 3 draft pick.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you for making my point.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I don't know who that is. Okay.
Yeah. But and one more thing about the NBA. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Milwaukee to me was going to be a contender coming this season, but I just thought they needed to get a little bit younger, and all they did was sign a bunch of old guys. They re-signed Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez, Robin Lopez, and they got Jay Crowder too and Miles Leonard. So it looks like they went to go older when their problem is they need to go younger because they got rammed by Miami. So I don't really consider them as a contender anymore next year, but at least they got Giannis. So I might watch them because of that. But I just noticed all their moves. They just signed a bunch of old guys. I didn't see the point in that.
I think they believed that it was unluck with the health because, Giannis was actually one of the ones hurt. And they did get bigger. But, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it would have been nice to see them get a little bit younger. At least bring in some young future talent.
Right.
And that may be in the playoffs. But we'll see.
Yeah, you got any thoughts, random thoughts, Glenn?
Nah, man. I'm just waiting for football season, man.
Like a lot of people are, training, rookies report on Monday and then vets report the week after. So
yeah, franchise tag too. That's what we're thinking about. We'll see what happens on the 17th. If players sign, or you can still, I think you'd have to sign by the 7th. If you're gonna do it.
Well, but they can hold out and then get dock money
and of course all those fines get they don't have to pay those fines once they finally sign. They always forgive them for it. But yeah, we'll see what happens though.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
curious
see.
about that. And then we saw that the New York Jets are going to be the team on Hard Knocks. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, you know, the thing about Hard Knocks is I've only watched 5 minutes of it total. I guess in all the 20 years it's been out. So I really don't, I'm not a Hard Knocks guy. But here's the thing. It used to be, I would say, unfiltered or whatever. Like you would see a lot more. The teams really weren't involved in the editing, but now the teams are. So the teams are actually involved in actually what gets out. So I don't think it's as authentic as people
Yeah,
want
it's
to make it
feature.
seem like it is. It used to be a little bit more authentic and you saw a lot. You know, that's how I knew the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, we always knew they were a train wreck, but when the owner came in on Hard Knocks and he was in the meeting and they asked what were they going to do with the tight end position, and the owner came in and said, let's make this defensive end tight end. Everybody just nodded their head and said, okay, and moved on to the next subject. That's how I knew the Cincinnati Bengals are just a train wreck of an operation. But that was really the only Hard Knocks I ever watched. It was about 4 or 5 minutes. That's it. I'm not really a Hard Knocks guy. What about you, Brian?
Never watched it, but
Yeah.
I think that earlier on, it's grown, right? So shows when it first came out were created for people to watch the shows. Now a lot of shows are created to create the Instagram, TikTok content, and I think that Hard Knocks is one of those. So I'm sure I will see plenty of 30-second clips regarding whatever goes on in with Aaron Rodgers and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether that is a knock on authenticity or whatever, but I think that all the editors for a lot of shows edit now to try and make impactful 30-second clips that they can hope go viral, because they make more money off of the clips than they do off of the showing of the show. Right? Nobody's going to go and subscribe to HBO for Hard Knocks.
Right.
But if they can make money without people subscribing by watching IG content, which of course is sponsored and so on and so forth, then that's the way to monetize it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I understood it when it first came out. Oh, you get this inside look and access and blah blah blah. But now with the internet and it's been 20 years, I just don't think it has like the juice it had back then. To me, it's really no need for it. If they didn't even have Hard Knocks no more, I don't think anybody would really care. So,
Careful,
but that's
Jason,
just
you're
my
saying
opinion.
you're old.
That's just my opinion.
So yeah, but so going this on a larger level, the social media level, there were people talking, ex-presidents and stuff, talking about how sports viewership was going down. And then they did a different type of analysis and found that fandom of sports was going up. And so they were trying to figure out, how do you have more fans but less viewers? And it's because people consume their content in 30-second bites on IG and Facebook, as opposed to the other ways. And so that's why you have, if you go on Facebook now, or I know when I do, I get 5,000 NBA Daily with one 30-second clip, one meme, and some other things. They've figured out how to monetize that and make that content valuable. I think that's just kind of the way it changes. But it's unfortunate because, like, the shows that I want to watch, I sometimes would like to get into it. And so, by example, Bomani Jones, for the first 2 seasons that show was out, I never watched the show, but I felt like I watched every part of every episode because it was built in 30-second clips, basically. Yeah. And even when you watch the show, it's segment him on the street having a conversation, segment him on the street having a conversation. It's built so that when they parse it out, that they can create the Facebook clips and whatnot. And, Last Week Tonight, Daily Show, a lot of the way people produce television now has changed to make it less about what you see on TV and more about what you see on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
We're old. We still want to go and click a channel every once in a while.
Hard Knocks came out in 2001. 2001
right.
It came out.
I used to watch more random sports when what I had to do was go on the TV, and instead of clicking on the guide, I'd put in whatever 206, that was ESPN. Yep. And then push, go from 206 to like 215. I would push up and see all the different stuff. And then every once in a while, it gets stuck on a channel. You don't do that anymore because we're watching it on YouTube TV and Hulu and all that kind of stuff. And it gives you a list of all the things that are on there. And I skip right past, the cornhole championships or whatever the heck it is, to get directly to what I intend to watch or what it's recommending to me. Like so much of what I end up watching is dictated to me based on an algorithm of what I've watched before. And it avoids the off chance that, like, I used to watch anytime I would run into it was always on AMC. Anytime I'd run into The Godfather, I would watch it. But I always found it because I was clicking through. I haven't seen that movie in years because it doesn't come in the algorithm anymore.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned a guide. I haven't seen a guide, man, in about 4 or 5 years. I don't even have cable, so I haven't seen a guide in God knows how long.
Yeah.
So, yep.
It's the least convenient part. Like even now, the guide that I get in Hulu, when you push down, it's the recent channels I've looked at. It's not everything. You have to really kind of go and find it to do everything. So it's just everything has just changed to how they create content. It's algorithmic. It's produced in a different way. All of us to go back to saying, no, I've never watched Hard Knocks, but I at least, but I always end up running into clips of stuff that may or may not be relevant.
Interesting. They got speaking of that, like it's funny because looking at, like, we talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going back to the creamsicle thing jerseys from back in the day, and I saw it from their social media team putting it out on Instagram and making a teaser video for it and making a little mini movie. So it's really interesting to that point. I mean, those jerseys were cool. We'll see what happens. Like I was saying, I'm never gonna see them on Madden because I don't play with the Buccaneers and don't play anybody who plays with the Buccaneers.
Well, remember, Glenn, when they wore those jerseys, they were losing a bunch of games. They got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback, so they'll be going back to losing a bunch of games. So I think it's standard, So yeah, we'll see.
Didn't they win a Super Bowl back then too? No.
Hell no.
Okay. Right,
they won with John Gruden and when Tom Brady was there, and that was it.
I'm thinking of the Dolphins old ones. I thought they had some old players there. So okay.
No.
Yeah. So we'll see. Those are cool. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you should know the Buccaneers well. That's who Bo Jackson got drafted by.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got drafted by Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah,
he said he wouldn't play for him. Yep.
Damn, I ain't mad at him. I did not know that, bro. Great. You guys think we kind of mentioned this too? Any word on D-Hop? You guys think any idea where he might go, or just yet to be seen? He should go to the Jets too.
Yeah, no, I think it's obvious that these veteran guys they don't want to be part of camp, and so they're absolutely going to wait for camp to get started. Also, there's always a few injuries in camp, and that drives up their market value. And they're all smart, so they get out of having to do that. And I'm sure they're working out and doing their own thing, D-Hop and Cook, and probably working out together in a lot of instances. But they understand that at the point that they became free agents, that the best thing for their value is some contender having an unfortunate injury in the preseason in practice and wanting to do better than the rest of the free agent pool. So it's like, oh, I'm going to go pay D-Hop his blah, blah, blah millions to get that one season deal. OBJ worked that same magic. He made a lot of money on 1-year deals that he probably wouldn't have otherwise made. Kind of played his card a little too much last year, but same goes for Cook. Like there's wait for Baltimore to call. They always have four players. Wait for Washington to call. Right? They always have 4 players, 4 running backs to get injured. I think that's kind of what I expect to happen for that top tier veteran free agent. Yep. There's other people who don't fit in that role, and they're just not getting calls. But I think for D-Hop and Dalvin Cook, they're just kind of waiting and buying their time.
Yeah, I agree with you because you keep hearing about they don't like the offers that they're getting. Like, it's not even training camp yet. I mean, everybody's optimistic about their team. They're optimistic about the first and second year players. Oh, this guy's going to do this and that. Wait till training camp gets rolling, and they're going to realize that, half these draft picks they got are new guys they got on their team, or pretty much they're going to be worried about them, not going to pan out, and they're going to have to look for a plan B. And that's where the D-Hops and the Dalvin Cooks come in. But the best thing I think, like you said, Brian, for them is for a contender to have a player hurt at the wide receiver or running back position. Like, for instance, let's just say the 49ers had McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell hurt. So we're left with pretty much one running back. You don't think they'll give Dalvin Cook a call? Because I surely think they'll give Dalvin Cook a call and 6-7 million guaranteed to come on through and play the rest of the year with them. So they might not like the deals now, but the best thing that can happen is if a contender loses somebody, they can definitely be on the roster. But I definitely think both of them will play this year. Just a matter. It's just you just gotta look and see how the dominoes fall. Who needs what and who's who doesn't like their players on their team or who gets hurt on some other team. But like I said, the best way to make the most money, contender. Definitely contender hurts. They'll definitely give them a call.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Word. Yeah. Anything else you guys are thinking of NFL wise?
Man, I was just looking at the AFC, to be honest with you, man, and that's going to be a dogfight to make the playoffs. There's a lot of decent teams in the AFC. I'm kind of happy we ain't over there.
Man,
It's,
for years
man.
and years.
All the quarterbacks left. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Anything, B?
Nah, I think it's way too early.
Straight up.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to mention was the U.S. Open for the women's. Allisen Corpuz wins it. Hawaiian. She was actually playing some pretty good golf. It was out of Pebble Beach, which was cool. They rotate where the tournament is, and I think it's been like years and years and years and years since they were at Pebble Beach. So it was cool to watch that tournament. And also it ends up being Michelle Wie's last tournament. Michelle Wie-West, who's legendary in the women's game. Like, you got to give her props. So respect to the OG.
Yeah. I think that's definitely was well. I don't know if you guys actually got to watch it, or people who are listening if you got to watch it, but there's a certain point in any golf tournament, at least most golf tournaments, where people realize that they have won. And she had that happen about a hole and a half early. And it was actually really amusing because she had that Cheshire Cat grin that was kind of hidden. Like, she was trying really, really hard to hold back I freaking did it, smile. But she had accomplished the biggest feat in women's golf, just like it is in men's golf. It was really kind of fun to watch, just all of that stuff. And she's an USC graduate. And so she got to the final green, and all of her USC classmates came over and kind of hosed her down, and all had USC gear. Her bag has a USC logo prominently on there. So it was just interesting to watch. And it was actually a very interesting tournament for a while. She kind of stretched it out at the end, which is what you're supposed to do when you're going to be a champion.
Yeah, it was cool to see. It was, and I definitely watched the final round. So shout out to her. But yeah, that's pretty much our show. It's July the 12th, 2023. So that's our last two segments. I don't got anything that I could think of that's hella hogwash right now.
Man, I don't either, but I'm sure we'll have some next week, and everybody's back in session. So
yeah, true that.
Yeah.
B?
No, not really. Nothing along those lines.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's like we said, we're in the middle of kind of the dead zone for sports. So
this could be the shortest show ever.
What's up? Is getting rid of affirmative action. Has nothing to do with sports.
No. Well,
that's a minute to win it and a hogwash segment. So
just appreciate you all for listening as always. Thanks for checking us out, and we're gonna keep doing it because we enjoy doing it. So
no doubt. Yeah, if anybody sat through this show, thank you. It's a short show.
Yeah.
Not much going on in sports, but next week is football rookies coming in. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. B?
No, but things that people should remember when picking their insurance agency. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but Farmers Insurance just pulled out of Florida, which I think I wish the U.S. could pull out of Florida. But there's 100,000 policyholders who just got lost their thing, and you got to remember, if a company like Farmers of that size is willing to pull up stakes, it's because they have no interest in paying for the bills when they actually come to roost. So they'll collect those checks. They'll leave you holding the bag later on.
Yep.
Remember that when you're picking your insurance agency. Look up that history.
Nice. All right.
Good thing I don't have Farmers.
I'll say, man.
Yeah. Good thing.
Dang. Well, there it is. Sports Counterpoints. We'll catch y'all next week. Appreciate you for listening.